This is the review for the Algebra Chapter 1 test. So in question number 1, you have to identify the independent quantity and the dependent quantity. Hector knows that there's a relationship between the number of cars that he washes and the time it takes him to wash those cars. Remember, independent quantities are always your time. So it would be the time that it takes to wash the cars. The dependent quantity is the number of cars. That's the thing that's changing. As time goes on, the more cars, the higher the number of cars that he washes will be. So that's the thing that is changing. The independent is always your time. In this one, you have to determine what is the independent quantity and the dependent quantity in Sam's hot air balloon ride. So remember, time is always the independent. All right, time is at the bottom, which is your independent quantity. Your dependent quantity, as time goes on, your height is the thing that is changing. But independent is always down at the bottom because that is your time. Time is always across the bottom. In question number 3, tell whether each graph represents a function. Remember, for it to be not a function, or for it to be a function, it has to pass the vertical line test. If it fails the vertical line test, meaning that there's 2 dots right directly above each other, all right? If there's 2 dots right above each other, it fails the vertical line test, so it's not a function. In letter B here, there are dots all along this, so there could be a dot right here and a dot right here. Those are directly right above each other. We could draw a straight line going down. That fails the vertical line test, so that is not a function. This one passes the vertical line test because there's not 2 dots right above each other. So if there's 2 dots right above each other, it is a no. An easy way to remember that is this forms the capital letter N in no. Number 4, which function family is each graph in? So this is the linear function family because it forms a straight line. A U-shaped graph is the quadratic function family. A V-shaped graph is the linear absolute value function family. A smooth curve, a single smooth curve, is the exponential function family. And the one that is parts and pieces, goes up and down and zigzags all around, that is the parts and pieces, that is the piecewise function family. The next type of question, classify each function as increasing, decreasing, or a constant. So what you would have to do is you would have to go in and graph these. Remember, y equals is your f of x. So you just type in y equals 0.1. You would get a graph that looks like this. It would just be a straight line going straight across. So that is a constant. In letter B, you would type in y equals 2/5 x. Now remember, to do 2/5, you could do 2 divided by 5 and then type in your x. Or you could change it into a decimal, which would be 0.4 x. Or you could do alpha, and then y equals. When you do alpha and y equals, you're going to choose choice number 1, which is that n divided by d, numerator over denominator. And you can type in the 2 in the top part of the fraction, the 5 in the bottom part of the fraction. And then you hit X and then hit graph, you get this graph. So this is going up as we go from left to right, just like we read a sentence. So that is increasing. Letter C, -4x. Graph of that would look like this. So that as we are going from left to right, just like we read a sentence, that is going down. 7 to the x power. Remember, you'd have to type in your caret button. So 7 caret button x. When we type that in, your graph is going to look like this. So as we go from left to right, this is going up. So it is increasing. Question number 6, we have to say whether each function is the linear function, linear absolute value, quadratic, or exponential. In question number 6, we see the absolute value symbol. Anytime that you see the absolute value symbol, that is part of the absolute value function family. The graph of that would look like this, where it is the letter V. In letter C, 0.5 to the x power. Anytime it's to the x power, it is part of the exponential function when it's to the x power. That would be a single curve that would look like this. Letter B, f of x equals 0. That would be a linear function family when you go to graph it. It is a straight line. And letter D, whenever you see an exponent to the second power, that is part of the quadratic function family, and it would be a U-shaped graph. In question number 7, determine whether it has an absolute maximum or minimum. Maximum would be the highest point. It would be that upside down U or V and have a highest point. That would be the maximum. Minimum would be a U-shaped graph, so it would be the bottom point. If it has neither an absolute min or max, write none. So you would type these into your calculator exactly how they are. In this first one, letter A, you would get this graph. That is the highest point right here. This is the highest point, so this would be a maximum. In letter C, 3x plus 5, that's just a straight line. That doesn't have a max or a min because it keeps on going both directions. It keeps on going up as we go to the right. It keeps on going down as we go to the left. So it doesn't have a max or a min. It's only a max or min when it's that U shape or V shape. So letter B, f of x equals x. Again, that is just a straight line, so it doesn't have either. In letter D, it is an absolute value function. Or remember, to type in your absolute value, I should have talked about this before, to type in your absolute value, you have to go to second and catalog, which is really the 0, all right, second and 0, and then choose ABS and do parentheses around it. Whatever is inside the absolute value symbol has to be inside the parentheses. So here we have the absolute value, all right, when we go to graph it, it looks like this. This point down here at the bottom is your min, because that is the lowest point. So that is what your test questions look like. Make sure that you know your vocabulary, make sure that you know your function families and how to use the calculator.